And introduction items. Is there a motion to accept the two-page list of introduction items, items 1 through 14?
Move to accept the introduction items.
Okay, Councilmember Brenner.
I thought that, and I'm going to ask the executive's assistance on this, I thought that that was a good idea. Was it, number 10, resolution amending 2013 Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District Budget, third request, that seems like that would follow with the reinstitution of the planning unit. So would that be possible? Because I'd like to pull that as not being at the next meeting.
If I may, why don't we have the opportunity to introduce what we're going to do at the next meeting, and then at that particular time, if you find it appropriate to postpone the decision on it for 2 weeks, I don't have a problem with that. We're trying to put the staffing together so that we can take care of the water supply plan, the comprehensive water supply plan, give us some help to put the planning unit together, and so on and so forth. So we'd like to make that presentation. If the council decides not to act on it at that point, I would have no problem with it. But if we may, I'd like to leave it as an introduction item tonight.
Fine. I withdraw my motion if I made one.
Councilmember Knutzen.
In that discussion process, will all three items have to be moved forward concurrently, or will we have the option to take one out?
The three items you're talking about?
Yes, there's three items in that allocation of funds. There's the Everson floodplain property acquisition, there's the natural resource property manager position, and there's the pollution identification control program.
I believe you have the ability to split it up if that's what you so choose to do.
Okay.
All right, so Councilmember Crawford has moved to accept the items. Is there any further discussion?
One thing.
Dana?
On item number 14,
yes,
which is I think it's 14. Hold on. It's the packing house item.
Oh, yes. Okay.
That should actually be taken off this list.
Right. Okay, so Councilmember Crawford, do you want to amend your motion to accept items number 1 through 13?
Yes, and I didn't realize I was even moving 13 and 14. So I guess I have a question on 13. Did Gary get something to introduce tonight after our discussion today?
He did bring something. He did.
Okay, because I don't think we got a supplemental. But
Well, he did bring something.
I believe so. The only thing he didn't get were the numbers for the finding on the additional units, but
should be 12 instead of 13.
That doesn't matter.
I'm just asking, are we okay to introduce 13 tonight? I mean, do you have something to introduce?
He brought it to the office.
I actually haven't seen it. He brought it in this afternoon.
He brought it in just before 4:30 or right around. The door had just been locked, and I opened the door for him.
So if you're comfortable accepting that as a
I didn't
substitute
exactly say
version,
that. I just saw him bring it in.
I'm sorry, I didn't see the ordinance. So I'm assuming that he brought it in at that time for it to be a substitute for introduction this evening.
Here's the man that knows.
Looks like Mr.
Okay,
Personius
there's the man
has
of the
it.
evening.
Okay.
But I do.
Okay.
All right. So my motion was items 1 through 13, that being item 13.
All right, Councilmember Weimer.
I'd like to pull item number 13 and vote on that separately.
Okay. So we will be accepting items 1 through 12. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Items 1 through 12 are accepted for introduction.
I'll move to accept item 13.
Councilmember Weimer.
I just wanted that separately because I can't vote to support it, and I wanted to support everything else.
All right. Councilmember Brenner.
Well, I have one question on the introduction item. And I thought Gary was going to be here, and I could just ask him. So I think it might be a legal question. Well, we got something today that a party was concerned that the way we had changed the R10A zoning, that we were not going to allow R10A to be in urban growth areas. And it was strange to me. I didn't understand it. I thought they said we had kind of muddied the language, and they wanted it to be real clear that R10A zoning can be in urban growth areas.
Well, we're
Did
going to have a
anybody see
hearing
it?
in 2 weeks.
No
If
one
we
saw
introduce
it?
it tonight, we can deal with it.
Well, I want to make, I think that our language does say that, but already that it can be in urban growth areas. That's why I wanted to ask Gary, or maybe
Maybe you can ask Gary or Mark between now and when we bring it back up.
okay, it's probably, hopefully it's not substantive. Okay. All right.
Okay, all those in favor of accepting item number 13, say aye. Aye. That is, and opposed?
No.
Almost forgot about you down there. All right, that passes 6-1. And Councilmember Weimer was opposed. Is there any other business from council members? Councilmember Brenner.
Yes, we met today in the public, I'm just going to keep calling it Public Works Committee. It's got all those other names too, but we had a presentation by the Public Works Director, Frank Abart, on public ferry clarifications and the web-based ferry ticket project status, the kiosk discussion, needs-based ticket discussion, and surcharge status. And I'm not really sure how to proceed. It seemed like we got an update, and I'm not, I was fine with the update, but I don't think I'm one of the ones who approached either Mr. Abart or the advisory committee that wanted some clarification on stuff. So if anybody does, please get a hold of Director Abart, okay?
I think we wanted the Ferry Advisory Committee to come back to us with a recommendation on Director Abart's recommendations that we clarify the language for how we distribute the ferry fund monies.
Well, then that's going to be, I guess we should get an advisory vote from them. The bottom line was, and it was nice to see Jeff Monson again. It's been a while. He is our former Public Works Director. He is the head of CRAB, or he's the representative, and what is it, County Road something Board. And he said the bottom line is we can actually do attributable doesn't mean we have to use it for the ferry, but we can. So again, it's going to be one of those things that we're going to have to each of us make a decision on what we want to do. But I do think that the advisory committee is interested in bringing forward a recommendation to us. Okay.
Good deal. Councilmember Crawford, other business?
Yeah, I want to hold you hostage. I want to negotiate here. The downside for you is I could read the letter that Chris Weitzel sent, which he asked to be read into the record, which is about 8 pages single-spaced. Or my negotiation is that each of you will commit to reading it on your own. And if people are watching on TV or here in the audience and want a copy, I think Jennifer, since this is public record, they could call the council office tomorrow and get her to send a copy. It's rather lengthy. But my caution, if you'll agree to read this, is not just to read. He sent about 3 times today. He was obviously having email problems copying and pasting. So go through the 3 emails and find the most pertinent information he gives is on his letter to Larry Brown, the president of the Sudden Valley Board of Directors, in which he does an analysis of the impacts to Sudden Valley Community Association on our small lot, on our stormwater standards for residential construction, of which we're proposing right now the small lots will not be exempted. And there he also corrects a misunderstanding on the part of Mr. Brown, who earlier this week had told people that small lots would still be exempted until a community stormwater system was developed, and that's not what is being put forward. But I think Mr. Weitzel is certainly in the catbird seat in terms of understanding Sudden Valley. He's made a career of buying and selling real estate in Sudden Valley, and I'm sure you all recognize his name. He's very well known down there. And this is the first, probably certainly the most in-depth and consequential review of this. I'm not saying it changes my mind one way or another in terms of how I will vote, but in the spirit of having all our eyes open as we go into this vote in 2 weeks, I would really encourage you to read this just to understand the potential impacts to lot owners and to the Sun Valley Community Association as a whole if and when this does pass. So please agree to that, and I won't bore you by reading the entire thing into the record. If you just nod your
You
head.
could have been half done by now.
I
read it.
Wait, I want Mr. Crawford to read it because Tuesday nights are the nights I get to do council business with no repercussions on the home front. So I have plenty of time right now.
I'll take that tongue-in-cheek.
Councilmember Mann is not recognized by the chair.
So
All right.
that was my only other business, was to strongly encourage you to take a look at this.
Okay, any other business? Did anybody, Councilmember Mann?
I do briefly, and this may be totally inappropriate, and if it is, I apologize. But we had a presentation today from a group about our jail, and this group we're paying over $400,000 to as a contract, and I was extraordinarily underwhelmed by the thoroughness of their presentation today. I thought I could have put that together when I was in high school. You know, their needs analysis was the extrapolation of a line, and the architect actually said our sun pattern here was fairly typical, that the sun rises in the east and moves west. Okay, that's more than fairly typical, I'm pretty sure. So I just am horrified. Not horrified, that's too strong. But to spend that much money on such an important project,
I don't think it's done.
as our consultants, the first impression was bad, and at least with me, and I would, my other business is to make that comment so that the administration knows and perhaps can convey that to the group, that this council member was not impressed and would like to see a little bit more rigorous input on their part next time.
Executive Laus?
If I may respond to that, I've probably spent 16 to 20 hours with this group over the last couple of months, and the presentation that they gave today was done within 45 minutes, which was by design. I think it was originally on the schedule from 3 to 5. We were encouraged to. They said that they were going to get it done in an hour because that's what they had to do. I do believe that there's a lot more information underneath this than what they presented today, and I got a good smile out of the presenter also when she said the sun rose in the east and set in the west. I kind of go, oh boy, I think she'd probably want to do over on that one if she had the opportunity. But they were under instructions to do a very brief overview of the work that they've done. There is more information. They went through 8 different jail bed projections. They presented 2 of them to you today. Some of them had a tremendous amount of bed space in them. Ultimately, the challenge that we're running into with that, and what makes it so difficult, is that we have no control over how many people we're going to be mandated to serve by the state and the federal government. So the decision by our group, and we're more than happy to engage you if you'd like to come to some of the meetings or spend a couple hours with the consultants. I'd be more than happy to set that up. I'd just like to encourage you to keep open mind on it. I appreciate your opinion on what was going on, but I do believe that they're doing a really good job for us at this particular time, listening to what our concerns are, and integrating well with the City of Ferndale through the SCIS, working well with staff. But I will convey to them your disappointment, but I'd also like to offer up to you, if you had a couple, 2-3 hours to be able to spend with them, I'd more than happy to set that up for you.
Councilmember Mann?
Okay, yeah, I'll take you up on that.
Hey, you've got time tonight.
I was going to say, are they still here?
You go have a beer again.
Let me just. I've actually, surprisingly, now that it's campaign season, you go to these events, and the thing I get asked about most so far is the jail, and how big is it going to be, and are you going to support this huge, oversized jail? And I say, I'm going to support our needs analysis, which is going to be rigorous, and you can count on us to do a good job of evaluating our needs. And then what we were presented with today was not anything like that. And I realize it may be difficult, and there's a lack of control that we have over jail populations to some degree, but that doesn't justify what appeared to me to be a very rudimentary graph line extension exercise. And she actually tried to use some statistical terms today, which were totally bogus. She was saying, well, you can see these two are similar, so therefore statistically that's valid. I mean, there was no validity to that statement or to the coincidence. The coincidence is not statistical validity. So I'll be more than happy to talk to them about that part of the analysis that they've done, because I have been assuring constituents that it's being done and that we're going to do a good job on it. And I don't have that confidence anymore, unfortunately. So yes, I would like to sit down with them and get a look at what's under the hood as far as their analysis. If there is anything there, I'd like to see it.
Okay. Any other, we're talking about other business. Any other business? All right. And the sun, if you're on the North Pole, it's hard to tell if it's east or west when it's coming up and going down. I lived in Iceland for 2 years. It was sometimes difficult to know where the sun was coming from. I don't have any other business. Do we have reports from council members? Councilmember Crawford? Councilmember Kremen?
Yes, Madam Chair. And before I get into my report, I just want to address some of the pretty harsh and critical comments from my colleague from the, is it the York neighborhood? Or,
me?
Yeah, or
Sunnyland neighborhood.
In spite of the fact that, what you say is true in terms of the comments about the, where the sun rises, et cetera, the point that was trying to be conveyed was that they took into consideration the exposure of the facility in mind as they are developing plans for it. And I think it's very easy to criticize and is an opportunity for chastisement and actually quite strong criticizing from you. And I actually was impressed from the fact that they did take the elements and the weather patterns that are experienced in that particular location into consideration as they were putting their proposal together. So, and I do have to also say that when almost every single member, if not all of the members of the council, posed questions to the individuals that made up the group making the presentation, I thought their answers were quite informative and appreciated their ability to respond to at least my questions and the other questions that I heard coming from the other council members. Now, as far as my report goes, it's real brief. Tomorrow I will be engaged in a telephone conference call. I wish I would be able to be there in person in Eastern Washington, but to save county dollars, I'm going to be spending 3 hours on the telephone conversing with my colleagues from around the state that represent the various counties and getting an update from the Association of Counties on the legislature and where they're at and some other county initiatives. And I'll be reporting back at our next meeting and let you know what I'm able to glean and learn from tomorrow's conference.
Great. Councilmember Brenner?
Yeah, I don't usually give reports, but I went to this event that was so wonderful. It's called Communities in Schools, and I think we all got it, but I'm going to pass this around so everybody can. These kids are incredible. They did improv, and they were just so wonderful. I was so impressed. I'm going to try my best to be a mentor here because I just know I would love it. I hope they can put up with me. So anyway, this is such a neat organization. And anytime we can help with communities and schools, Mr. Executive, I sure hope we do. One other thing I wanted to bring up since I'm talking about helping out. We brought up about Glenn Hallman and, the senior services. I would really appreciate if we could get some kind of an update on the senior meals program, because I was very impressed when the Northwest Regional Services people gave us the presentation they did, and I think that's an area that, compared to the other counties, we are way lower in providing meals, money for meals. So I'm interested in putting that out there for us to take another look at.
Okay, I have nothing to report. Councilmember Mann?
I'd just like to address my colleague from the Basin 3 of the Lake Whatcom watershed.
Touché.
I'm glad you were impressed by their incorporation of the elements in their report, but as somebody who's taken multiple architecture classes and has an engineering degree, they teach you that freshman year of architecture school to contemplate where the sun and the wind are. So trust me, that was not any kind of advanced thinking on their part. That's just 1, 2, 3.
I tried to warn you.
Okay.
Councilmember Knutzen.
Hey, thank you. I just want to, my high school English teacher, I want to remind them after this week that you might not have thought I was paying attention in class, but I was, because I was reminded of a poem that we learned in high school. I think it was by Milton. Water, water everywhere, and ne'er the drop to drink. Water, water everywhere, and ere the boards did shrink. It seemed like my week was about water. It started with the water symposium, and which was very well presented, and I thought was a great presentation. I know Executive Laus was there, and I think Carl was there, and myself, and I also had a presentation from the USGS on not water resources, but the amount of sediment that is coming down the Knutzen River, and which was very alarming. Up to 1.5 million tons of sediment piles down that river and is accumulating in front of it, and it is changing what goes on in the bay there. And then I had meetings with farmers and Congressman Del Benny talking about water in the morning before the symposium the next day. So if you don't think that we are concerned about water in Whatcom County, I would invite you to follow me around for a week. But I would say that the water symposium was very well put on, and I was very impressed with USGS's assessment of and the amount of data they've collected with the Knutzen watershed. It's one of the most, when you're talking about rivers, it seems like the coalition with a volcano creates a lot of sediment accrual, and that's what we have going on out there. So with that being said, we have a sediment management program that we are starting a pilot project with that I would hope that we can see something happen.
Great. Councilmember Weimer?
Thank you. I'm just thankful that I'm the last one, and because we've milked this meeting for almost 2 hours. And I have to be in Calgary, Alberta at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So because we actually sit in the crossroads of the energy hub of the Northwest with all of our 4 refineries and train loads of oil coming in now and a hub of natural gas. And I've been asked to give the keynote address tomorrow at the National Energy Board of Canada. So if I can get to Calgary by tomorrow morning, I'll also ask them if they can send us several $1 million for their oil rig that took out the bridge in Skagit County.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'll come back with a pile of that money.
Great. Well, Councilmember Weimer, you're not quite last, because I do want to say, I want to congratulate Councilmember Crawford for being elected the chair of the Washington State Transportation Improvement Board. So congratulations, Councilmember Crawford.
Thank you.
And we are now adjourned.